Welcome to the Make the Money and Run podcast for Monday, December 6th, 2021. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check out the Brit Cupertino at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. Live music is back, as well as weekend football and sports viewing. Check out the NFL Sunday Ticket every Sunday there for breakfast. Bottomless Mimosas as well, too. Check out the website. We're also sponsored by the Britannia Arms in Capitola on the shores of the Pacific Ocean down there in the Capitola Village near Santa Cruz. Check them out for the NFL Sunday Ticket as well. Breakfast, lunch, all-day football viewing, and also during the week for happy hour specials as well. Both Cupertino and Capitola for the Britannia Arms, Northern California's best British pub and restaurant. Got theirs going right now. All right, we welcome you in to the studio. Vasi Vadaparty here with you on this Monday, December 6th, 2021. What a weekend in sports coming up. We'll go through all the NFL. We'll get to all the NBA and NHL, and also a little Major League Baseball, even though there's a lockout. There's a couple things going on as well, too. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 o'clock on Mondays, Thursdays at 1 Eastern, Fridays at 1 o'clock Eastern, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter Live. Download and subscribe anywhere if you miss the live broadcast, Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, SoundCloud. And don't forget, every day during the week, we have our social media selections, SMS, for those that are text message literate, I guess. SMS is the acronym they use. 6 Eastern every day for the latest news, and also the selections from intern Nick, Charlie O, and myself. Also, you can get to us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well, too. MTMAR Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. All right. As said, the Britannia Arms of Capitola and the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, we thank them for their participation with the show. Let's get right to it. BCS championship games are set for New Year's Eve. They have them on New Year's Eve. For the West Coast, I guess it's not too late, but on the East Coast, a lot of complaints that it's going to be 8 o'clock on the East when that second game starts. Can't really do anything for New Year's Eve, but here we are. The games are set. What a weekend it was. The number one ranked Alabama Crimson Tide will host the Cincinnati Bearcats in the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve. That game's set for 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific on New Year's Eve. Alabama with their victory over Georgia, and Cincinnati with their win over Houston. Alabama upset Georgia. Georgia had only allowed 8.7 points a game coming into Saturday, but Alabama had a game plan, and Bryce Young, if he doesn't win the Heisman Trophy, he wins it after Saturday for sure. 41-24, Alabama routs Georgia. Did not see that coming. A lot of people had the possibility of Georgia losing, but I don't think anybody saw a blowout like that. And Kirby Smart, one of Nick Saban's longtime assistants, gets schooled by the master again. 41-23 in Atlanta. Roll Tide roll. That one's for Casey Freelove. Alabama with the upset over Georgia. 6.5-point favorite coming in. The game went over the total, 49. Our guest, Ted Robinson from the Pac-12 Network, he liked that over. In fact, he was looking at the line with us on Friday on the show. You can download that if you want to hear Ted Robinson's take on college football. But 41-24, Alabama covers the 6.5. Actually, they're the underdog, so they win outright, and they go over the total of 49. The other game, Michigan will host Georgia. Actually, Michigan and Georgia will play. Michigan number 2. Georgia drops from number 1 to number 3. They'll play in the Orange Bowl. They're the second game of the day. Michigan with a 42-3 win over Iowa. They just ran all over Iowa. We said Iowa had trouble scoring all year. They got as high as number 2 during the year. But then they lost to Purdue. They lost to Purdue at home. They were an 11.5-point favorite against Purdue. But Michigan ends up dominating 42-3. Haskins and Corum, they ran all over. Jim Harbaugh's defense was outstanding. Iowa had no chance going into the game. Shout out to the University of Michigan people from this Ohio State fan, giving you a lot of props. I thought it would be a little bit of a close game. Turned out not to be. Iowa, 12-point underdog. They could have been getting 30, and it still wouldn't have been enough. The over-under stayed under at 42-3, but Michigan's defense played about as well as they played all year, only allowing Iowa to 3 points, and that's something to be said in terms of Michigan's defense because they had given up some points. They gave up quite a few points to Ohio State last week in their victory over the Buckeyes. So 42-3, Michigan over Iowa. They will host Georgia, who lost to Alabama. We said Alabama 41-24. Over Georgia in the SEC championship in Atlanta on Saturday. So Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan, Georgia. What do you think? Send us comments. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, anywhere that you get our show live right now. You can send us comments or any questions you have. about that. Cincinnati, they retained the American Conference. They lost the regular season title because they didn't have enough wins, but they ended up beating Houston 35-20. The game was close at half, 14-13. A 10.5-point spread for Cincinnati. I saw it as high as 11, maybe even 11.5 in some places. But the Cincinnati Bearcats, Desmond Ridder, Heisman Trophy candidate. A lot of people criticize Cincinnati. Their only big win this year was Notre Dame. That's not true. They've had great games this year where they didn't play all that great and they didn't have a big enough spread. I don't know what that means. You win all the games on your schedule. You win convincingly. You deserve to be there. And Cincinnati was in the number 4 spot coming into the week, and they handled a very good Houston team. Don't knock it. Houston's a very good team. And they ended up, their only loss was to Texas Tech, but their second loss Saturday, 35-20. Cincinnati will get the number 4 spot in the BCS semifinal. Georgia losing to Alabama. We said they dropped from 1 to 3. A lot of people thought Georgia didn't deserve to be there after losing this game and losing handily. Georgia absolutely deserves to be there. Were they going to be the number 1? No, a lot of question about whether Alabama should have been number 1 or number 2, but Michigan certainly deserves to be there. Alabama deserves to be there. Cincinnati deserves to be there. And Georgia, even though they gave up 41 on Saturday, they deserve to be there. So the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl are set for the Final Four of the BCS Championship, the College Football Playoff. The championship game will be January, Conference Championship weekend. The game will be January 10th. Bowls start on December 17th. The CFP National Championship will be January 10th, 2022. And that game will be a Monday night after the divisional playoff weekend of the NFL. The rest of the Conference Championship weekend, I'll tell you where that game's going to be. I don't know where the National Championship game is going to be. I want to say it's in Arlington, but I'll double check that before the end of the show. National Conference Championship weekend this weekend. Utah beat Oregon again. Not only did they beat them, they routed them again. Those of you remember 2 weeks ago, Utah ran for over 200 yards against an Oregon defense that was very sloppy, and they beat them 38-10. So that's 38 and 38, 76-17 in 2 games that Utah has beaten Oregon. They win the Pac-12 championship. Oregon, there was just something missing about Oregon all year, even though they had the biggest win of the year going into the Horseshoe and beating Ohio State. Maybe Ohio State's defense wasn't that good. Of course, Oregon's best running back, best player, maybe CJ Verdell, was out for the last 5 weeks. He hurt himself against Stanford with that terrible foot injury, and he was out the rest of the year, and they had really no running game to balance out what was an average passing game. Anthony Brown was not solid this year, and there was just something missing about Oregon. Even though Oregon was number 3 in the rankings, they were ahead of Ohio State, who was number 4 by virtue of the head-to-head. They have the biggest win of the year against Ohio State. There's no doubt about it, but you just got to think that this way that Oregon lost over the weekend tells me that we were all pretty right about Oregon having a piece missing here or there. I want to thank everybody on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter for checking us out right now. We appreciate it. You can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast if you missed the live broadcast. All right, bowl weekend this weekend starts on Friday the 17th, continues all the way to New Year's Eve, including the semifinals. The College Football National Championship is on January 10th, 2022. What are your thoughts on this game? I mean, I was really surprised with Alabama beating them so badly. I had Alabama +6. The line went down from 7 all the way down to 6, and they won the game outright. I mean, it was over by halftime, really. Surprisingly, Alabama was in control, and Bryce Young, if he didn't win the Heisman Trophy before Saturday, he clearly has the edge right now on the Heisman Trophy voting and the Heisman Trophy winner to get that trophy right there. So very interesting weekend in college football. The rest of the conference championships, we talked about Utah beating Oregon. Pac-12, they win the Pac-12. Baylor beats Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was at number 5. Any of these teams faltered. Now, if Georgia lost and Oklahoma State won, could that have been a case for Oklahoma State to get into the top 4? I don't think so. But Oklahoma State losing to Baylor outright. What a play on defense by Baylor at the end of the game to stop their running back from hitting the outside pylon. That would have given them the game-winning touchdown with the last play of the game. Mike Gundy had a great year at Oklahoma State. Their offense, it lacked a little bit. Spencer Sanders was not as accurate as he normally would be during the year. He ran a lot more. But their defense played well all year. They had that big win at Boise to start the year. They had the game against Texas and, of course, Bedlam last week. They gave up a lot of points to Oklahoma last week. to Caleb Williams and the Oklahoma Sooners. Of course, we know what happened to Oklahoma. They lost their coach since then. But Baylor beat Oklahoma State. The Big 12 championship is Baylor's now, and they will defend it going into 2022. And San Diego State, the Mountain West, Utah State got off on a roll in Carson on Saturday afternoon. They got off to a 21-0 lead, 28-3 lead. They end up winning 48-16 over Utah State, 49-16 over San Diego State to win the Mountain West. And in the ACC, Kenny Pickett didn't get talked a lot about in the Heisman balloting, but Wake Forest wins. Pittsburgh throttles Wake Forest 45-21, only a 3.5-point spread for Pittsburgh. I loved Pittsburgh on Saturday. I think I mentioned it on Friday. That was the game to take. The ACC championship goes to the Pitt Panthers, and Kenny Pickett should be in the top 5 in the Heisman voting. Defense played outstanding. Wake Forest got off to an 8-0 start, but their defense struggled the last 4 games, as evidenced by the 45 points they gave up on Saturday to Pitt. So 45-21 Pitt over Wake Forest, the ACC title. So what were your thoughts on conference weekend this weekend, conference championship weekend? A little bit of a surprise for Utah State. Not really a surprise for Utah over Oregon. The way they played them 2 weeks ago, the revenge factor that everybody talked about did not even come into play. Utah had them from the opening whistle all the way to the middle of the third quarter, early the fourth quarter, when Oregon finally got their touchdown. But the big one, as we said, Alabama and Cincinnati, Georgia, Michigan, the 4 combatants in the college football playoff semifinal. New Year's Eve, 1 o'clock on the West Coast, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. The Cotton Bowl will be first. The Orange Bowl will be second. That's 4 o'clock on the East Coast and 8 o'clock on the East Coast on New Year's Eve. How do you feel about that, everybody, on the East Coast and in the Central Time Zone? Does that impede your New Year's Eve plans? Of course, we didn't have New Year's Eve last year. We were all happy about it on New Year's Eve. We had a pandemic. Nobody was really going anywhere last year for New Year's Eve unless you went to a friend's house or whatever the case may be. But this year, people want to do something after the pandemic in 2020. How does that help you guys? How does that help you guys or hurt you guys for New Year's Eve, especially if you're a fan of Michigan or Georgia? You're on the East Coast. 8 o'clock it starts. Where's Len Konechny? Where's all my friends on the East Coast? Where's Joe Rini? What does this do for the bowl series, bowl championship series, when the game starts at 8 o'clock and you've got New Year's Eve festivities going on? It's going to run right into midnight. Do you turn over to Ryan Seacrest, or do you end up watching the Michigan-Georgia game on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube? Let us know what you're going to do on New Year's Eve. I'll be watching the game. I don't know where I'll be watching the game, but I'll definitely have my eye on the game. It'll only be 8:45 or 8:30, 8:45 on the West Coast where I'll be. I don't have any plans to be anywhere outside of the West Coast region. So if that's the case, heck, even if I'm in Hawaii 2 hours earlier, I'll still have the rest of the night for New Year's Eve. But anyway, point being, Alabama, Cincinnati. Question about Alabama being number 1 versus Michigan. Cincinnati stays in the number 4 spot. Michigan moves up from 3 to 2, and Georgia drops from 1 to 3. The Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl are all set. Bowl games start December 17th. Our Friday football show will have a preview of all the bowl games as well as we move on through December into the Christmas holiday, into New Year's Eve, and into the championship game on January 10th on divisional weekend of the NFL. Wildcard weekend, then divisional weekend in the NFL. Actually, that is wild card weekend because the NFL has 18 weeks. So wild card weekend, the Monday after wild card weekend, because there's 18 weeks in the NFL with the 17-game schedule. So it is wild card weekend that the CFP will play their game on January 10th, Monday night, from Dallas, from Arlington. I believe Jerry's World is hosting the game this year. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me about that on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Tom, for watching here on Facebook. We appreciate it very much. All right, when we come back in 30 seconds, the National Football League scenario. 12 teams in each conference still have a chance at a playoff spot. How about the Detroit Lions getting their first win? We'll tell you all about it. Cincinnati sounded like a thud that you heard in southeastern Ohio was the thud the Bengals laid to the Chargers yesterday. Sorry, Joe Madden. We'll talk. Oh, actually, Joe Madden's happy. She's a Chargers fan. I'm the one who's sorry. I had Cincinnati on my line yesterday. All right, back in 30 seconds. Vasi Vadaparty here with the Make the Money and Run podcast. Solo today. Charlie O on assignment. He'll be back with us Thursday. And, of course, intern Nick Robinson. Don't forget, we'll have our selection. We'll have our selection Monday. We'll have our selection Monday by 6 Eastern every day, including today, the latest news, and our selection Monday, 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday, 3 times on Saturday, twice on Sunday. We had a good weekend over the weekend in terms of our selections. And don't forget, we're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Capitola. Check them out at facebook.com/Britannia Arms Capitola, 831-464-2583. And then the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, 408-252-7262, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. All right, back in 30 seconds with the NFL outlook, the playoff outlook. Monday Night Football tonight with the Patriots and Bills, a huge AFC East division game. I'm sorry, they're on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. Buffalo, New England, both fighting out for the AFC East. New England all of a sudden has the best record in the AFC by the tiebreakers. We'll tell you all about that, and we'll review the weekend of the NFL in 30 seconds on the Make the Money and Run podcast for this Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast for this Monday, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Happy hour specials, NFL Sunday ticket on Sunday. They've got live music coming back. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. Also, the Britannia Arms of Capitola, right near Santa Cruz on the shores of the Pacific Ocean. Check them out at Facebook.com/Britannia Arms Capitola, 831-464-2583. Check out all their specials for both Britannia Arms, the best British pub in Northern California, pub and restaurant in Northern California, going right now in terms of Santa Cruz and Cupertino. All right, Vasi Vadaparty here with you on this Monday, a review of the NFL weekend. We'll get to the NBA and NHL a little bit later. Also, a little news from the Hall of Fame as we talk about Major League Baseball. Not a lot to talk about in Major League Baseball with the lockout going on, but we had some good news in the Hall of Fame. We'll tell you about that. We'll go over the NBA, some of the NHL stuff as we get to it. All right, the NFL. Hold on one second here. Excuse me. The NFL last week, the Dallas Cowboys got back on the winning road here. They beat the Saints on Thursday night 27-10, not 27-27. They lead. Let me fix that here while I'm at it. They lead the NFC. They lead the NFC East by 2 games over those red-hot Washington football team that played in Las Vegas the other day. So the Cowboys are now 8-4. They're in 4th place. They're behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as I get to the NFL page here in a second. But the NFL, with their standings, it'll go like this. The Arizona Cardinals are 9-2. They are 10-2. The Green Bay Packers are 9-3, Tampa Bay 9-3, and the Dallas Cowboys at 8-4. The playoff race looks like this. We'll get to that in a second. In the NFC, Arizona 10-2, Green Bay 9-3, Tampa Bay 9-3, Dallas with their win 8-4 over New Orleans last week. They're in 4th. The Rams, Washington, San Francisco are the last 3 teams that are going to be in the playoffs if the season ended today. Thank God it doesn't end today. Lots to talk about there. Philadelphia 8, Minnesota 9, Carolina 10, Atlanta 11, and we'll include the Saints at 12. In the AFC, New England, by virtue of Baltimore losing yesterday, we'll get to all that in a second. Tennessee in 2nd place. Both of those teams are 8-4. Baltimore 8-4 after their loss to Pittsburgh, and Kansas City with their win on Sunday night. They're at 8-4 also. So those are your top 4 seeds in each division. Buffalo and New England play tonight. Huge game. Buffalo can move back into the top spot with a win at home over the Patriots and end up with the number 1 seed, or they can stay where they are at the number 5 seed. Chargers at 7-5. Their win over Cincinnati yesterday on the road, 7-5. Cincinnati at 7-5. They fall to 7 by virtue of the head-to-head. And then Pittsburgh with the win over Baltimore, 6-5-1. They're 8. Indianapolis 7-6 with their win. Raiders lose to Washington. They're 6-6. Cleveland had the bye week. They're 6-6. Denver lost last night to Kansas City. They are 6-6. They are in 12th. All right, let's go over some of the individual games here. Talked about Dallas and New Orleans, 27-10 Dallas over the Saints on Thursday night. Cowboys offense looked okay. Saints are totally undermanned Right now, they're 5-7. They got off to a 4-2 start. All the injuries have finally caught up with them, and now they are at 5-7, really fighting on life support right now to even be relevant in the NFC. Dallas leads the NFC East. Tampa Bay continues to play well. They end up covering the 11.5, even though they did not look good. Atlanta had several chances to beat them yesterday, but the Buccaneers get the 30-17 win. The game was at 37 points at the half. I had the over 51. They did nothing in the second half. 20-17 was the halftime score. Tampa Bay's defense came out in the second half, outscored Atlanta 10-0, 30-17. That stays under 51. And if you had the Buccaneers at minus 11.5, you certainly had Tampa Bay. It was going to be close there at the end. Atlanta had a chance to get a touchdown late at the end of the game. Could not get the touchdown. Last play of the game, bad clock management by Arthur Smith and Matt Ryan on those last two plays. Arizona shut Chicago down. My Bears, 33-22. The Arizona Cardinals, the first team to have every road win. Every road win. Now think about this. It's hard to win on the road in the NFL, and home teams generally have that advantage being at home. Every road win has been by double digits or more. Just think about how hard that is. Kyler Murray came back. He played well for Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins was back as well, too. Bears defense gave up 33 points. Andy Dalton was the starting quarterback. Justin Fields still hurt. Bears are out of it right now as we look at it. Bears are at 4-8. They're in 14th place. They fall behind the Giants, who are also at 4-8. Giants got beat up by Miami. We'll get to that in a second. How about the Detroit Lions? You couldn't be happier. I said they were going to win a game. Charlie gave me a bad time. They tied with the Steelers. They lost 2 games this year on game-winning kicks. One against Baltimore at home, one on the road at Minnesota. Game-winning kicks. Justin Tucker's 68-yard field goal, a now NFL record, was the one that beat Detroit then by 2. And then Minnesota down 1, got a game-winning kick by Greg Joseph at the buzzer to have that loss come through. But with all the terrible events that happened, and by the way, shout out to the Lions for understanding what was going on in their community, Oxford High School, the 8 people who were killed. All the love goes out to them right now for everything that's going on there. But Detroit, hopefully Detroit's win, able to take some ease off the people of Michigan and Oxford County. They get their first win. It's the last play of the game. Boy, if you had Detroit on the money line, you probably got good odds on that. But you had to wait 59 minutes and 56 seconds to get that victory. And you know what? Good for Detroit. 1-10-11. They're not going anywhere. Dan Campbell having a rough year. First-year coach. Jared Goff. I don't know if it's true about the Rams trading him, about him not being as good as what they thought they were getting the last 4 years when he was the number 1 pick out of Cal. But they get their first win. Good for them. Good for the community of Oxford. Good for Michigan. But in the end, you got to question Minnesota's defense. That's the goal line. You're going to lose if they score a touchdown. What was that DB doing? I forgot the DB it was. I'm going to have to look at the film again and discuss it with Charlie on Thursday. But what were you doing? Letting get 7 yards off the receiver and you're at the 3-yard line? All you got to do is come in and square in route right at the goal line. Doesn't matter if you cross the front of the goal line or catch it on the back end. It's a touchdown and you lose. The one thing I was wondering, though, about the game, and I'm going to have to check the rules on this because it was a 2-point game. There was no time on the clock. It was my interpretation that if the game is at 2 points or less and you have an extra point to kick, that you're still supposed to kick the extra point because there's a chance of a block kick and a chance for Minnesota to run it back and tie the game at 29. But I guess with no time on the clock, they elected not to do it. I don't know if that's the rule or not because I saw that with the Saints and Vikings a few years ago on the Minnesota Miracle a few years back with who was the quarterback? Who was the quarterback for Minnesota? But Stephon Diggs had the long pass there. The backup, Case Keenum, that's who it was. Case Keenum to Stephon Diggs on the last play of the game. And they ended up having to kneel, and that ended up saving a lot of people that had the Saints at +6 because if they kicked that extra point, they would have lost that extra point. They ended up winning by 5. That goes back a few years, though. But anyway, Detroit gets the first win. What was Minnesota doing on defense? That loss hurts the Minnesota Vikings. They are now in 9th place. They got beat by the 49ers, so that puts them 2 games back in the 49ers. 1 game back in the standings and 1 game back for the head-to-head. 5-7 to 6-6 for San Francisco. Philadelphia won yesterday. They beat the Jets 33-18. They thumped the Jets. The Jets had a lead at one point, but bad defense by the Jets, and Philadelphia behind Gardner Minshew Gardner Minshew, the quarterback for Jalen Hurts, it could not go yesterday. Gardner Minshew ended up leading the Eagles into a win over the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but still, that's a big win for Philadelphia. They're 6-7. They're a half game back of the 49ers. 49ers have the edge on them. They beat them head-to-head early in the year. They had a 17-11 win over Philadelphia earlier in the year. So Philadelphia 33-18 win over the Jets. They're 6-7. They're in the 8th spot. They're a half game ahead of Minnesota. Both have 7 losses. Carolina has 7 losses. Atlanta has 7 losses. New Orleans has 7 losses. Atlanta got beat by Tampa Bay, we said. Carolina had the bye week. I believe Carolina had the bye week. I don't remember seeing them. Yeah, Carolina had the bye week along with Tennessee, Green Bay, and Cleveland. So we have one more week of bye weeks. Week 14, Indianapolis, Miami, New England, and Philadelphia. The rest of the byes. And then from 15 on, all the way through week 18, the last 4 weeks, no more byes. Fantasy football owners, rejoice. No more byes. So that works out perfect for fantasy football, daily fantasy football as well, too. All right. So 29-27, the Lions win over the Vikings. Last play of the game. Good for the Lions. They're not going to go winless this year, 1-10-1. And, of course, thoughts go out to everybody in the Oxford community for that. Miami Dolphins. You know what? We cannot forget about the Miami Dolphins. They are, even though they're in 13th place, they're 6-7 in the AFC. They've won 5 in a row. They're 6-7. They get a win 20-9 over the New York Giants. No Daniel Jones in the game. Galladay got hurt. No Saquon Barkley. Now we know where the Giants are. They're 4-8. But here's Miami, 6-7. They're only 2 games back of New England for the division lead, believe it or not. And Buffalo's 7-4. And you're looking at the Miami Dolphins at 6-7. That's 3 games back in the division. But if Buffalo loses, they're only 2 games back. And we've got, like I said, we've got one more week of byes. Miami gets a bye next week, and New England gets a bye. So we'll have everybody at the same number of games after week 14. But if Miami can continue this 5-game winning streak, they've got a shot at maybe catching a wild card team here, because the wild card right now is the Cincinnati Bengals, the 7 seed at 7-5. They fall behind the Chargers because of the head-to-head loss yesterday at home. Cincinnati, a 3-point favorite. We'll get to that in a second, but that was a thud laid by the Bengals yesterday at home to a Chargers team that has been really inconsistent all year. Sorry, Joe Madden, but that's the truth of it, and you know it too. Pittsburgh beats Baltimore 20-19. We said that. But Miami beat the Giants 20-9. Philadelphia 33-18 over the Jets. Indianapolis, another touchdown for Jonathan Taylor. 31-0 over the Houston Texans, who are officially eliminated now. The Texans are officially eliminated. The Lions were going to be eliminated if they lost, but they still have an infinitesimal chance to make the playoffs. It's not going to happen, but we'll see where it goes from there. So Indianapolis, 31-0 over Houston. Jonathan Taylor, another touchdown. Indianapolis now in the – where are they? They're in the 9th spot. They're 7-6. They're behind Pittsburgh by a game. They're behind Cincinnati by a half game, behind the Chargers by a half game, and only 1 game back, 1.5, 2 games back in the loss column of the Buffalo Bills in the 5 spot. Remember, Indianapolis had a chance to get into the division lead with that win over Tennessee, but they lost to Tennessee at home. So 7-6 is not bad, and they're still in it right now. They're in the 9th spot. They've got a chance. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Chargers, and Buffalo haven't played great the last 4 weeks, so kind of where we're at right now. All right, 31-0 over Houston. And then the dud of the day, the Chargers, 41-22 over Cincinnati. Cincinnati played well the last few weeks. They won 3 out of 4, and then they lay an egg. Lay an egg at home. No other way to say it. 16-0 Chargers to start off in the first quarter. Turnovers. Burrow didn't look good. I know he hurt his pinky. Couldn't throw the ball a little bit, but that fumble by Mixon really hurt them. They came back from 16-0 down. We're a 2-point conversion away from tying the game up. Could not do it, and they just could not get to the point where they could catch up from that point on. So a 19-point loss by the Bengals. The Bengals now fall all the way down to 7th. The Chargers at 7-5. They're at 6. Virtue of the head-to-head. That's what it says here. Tiebreak over Cincinnati based on head-to-head win percentage. 1-0 against Cincinnati. All right, the later games. Washington football team, they've won 4 in a row. They are now at 6-6. They're in the 6th spot in the wild card. They're 2 games back of the Rams. Rams had their bye this week. So once again, Rams 8-4, Cowboys 8-4, but they're in different divisions, so that's not going to affect Dallas at all. Dallas only 2 games up on Philadelphia. 2 games up on Washington, 3 games up on Philadelphia. Washington got a kick from got a last minute kick to beat the Raiders 17-15. Las Vegas at 500. They're at 2 back in the AFC. They're at 6-6. Kansas City at 8-4 with their win last night. Denver 6-6, and then where are we at here? Kansas City, the Chargers at 7-5 overtake second place in the AFC West. The Rams get a big win over Jacksonville, 37-7. The Rams had their bye week the previous week. The Rams are 37-7 victory over Jacksonville. They are now 8-4. They are now 8-4 in the league. They're 1 game back, 2 games back of Arizona, but Arizona has them twice already. I think they play Arizona one more time, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Giants. Rams at Arizona on Monday night. Next Monday night, a week from tonight, big division game. The Rams are going to go down to Arizona. They need a win if they have any chance of the division title. But Kyler Murray looked awfully good yesterday. All right. What's going on with the Ravens? I don't know. I don't understand. I know John Harbaugh likes to go for it a little bit, but the Ravens tried for 2 to win. They got the touchdown, kick the extra point, go to overtime, force Pittsburgh to win the game. You're playing for a number 1 seed here. I don't understand going for 2. The play was there. Jackson's still very inaccurate. Got the ball off on the side to Andrews. Couldn't catch it. He would have gone in and scored, but I still think kicks the extra point. Maybe it's just me. End of game situations like that, if you're not in it or you're way up in the division, you go for 2 and take your chances with that. But now this loss drops the Ravens from the number 1 seed all the way to the number 3 seed. 20-19 loss to Pittsburgh gives Pittsburgh a win that they really didn't deserve. Now they're in the wild card hunt. They're in the 8th spot. They're a half game back of Cincinnati. Cincinnati, by the way, 2-0 on Pittsburgh. That's 7-5. But Cincinnati with that tie, 6-5-1 in the 8th spot, getting ready to play. Who do they play next week? They play Thursday night at Minnesota. So Minnesota off their tough loss and Pittsburgh off their tough win. That's going to be an interesting matchup, a rematch of this has been the rematch of Super Bowls. This goes back to Super Bowl 9 back in the 1970s. So Pittsburgh with the 20-19 victory, they're 6-5-1. Baltimore all the way down to 3rd. And then last night, Kansas City defeats Denver 22-9. Kansas City's defense, a top 5 defense the last 5 weeks in the NFL. And Patrick Mahomes, they didn't look great. The offense didn't look great. Lots of drops. Still a lot of drops. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Hardman, Byron Pringle, 2 drops. They could have scored 42 points easily. Would have made it a lot easier on those Kansas City players that had -9 because Denver still had the ball last. They were able to stop them on the 4th down play and give Kansas City the win, 22-9. All right, Monday Night Football. We mentioned it already. Buffalo hosts New England. The Pats in first at 8-4. The Bills 7-4 were dominant early, but now tied in the loss column in the AFC East. The 2.5-point spread, 41 the total. Their next meeting is December 26th. But tonight, what do you do if you're Buffalo? You're at home. You got Bills Mafia behind you. Game doesn't start till 8:30. There's probably a lot of liquored up people out there in the parking lots of Buffalo. Don't know what the weather's like in Buffalo, but you got to imagine it's cold. New England's used to the cold weather. They're on a roll right now. They've won 6 in a row. They're playing for the number 1 seed in the AFC now, and Bill Belichick has done it again with a team that nobody gave them a chance to do anything with, and a rookie quarterback. They're running the ball well. Defensively, they're doing everything they can. They're forcing turnovers. All you got to do is watch that Tennessee game. You see all the turnovers they force. So New England, 2.5, 41.5. Check us out at 6 Eastern. I'll tell you why the Patriots are going to win tonight on the road at Buffalo as a 2.5-point underdog. But like I said, Buffalo and Miami, good Monday night game. And the Rams and Arizona, another good Monday night game. Minnesota, Chicago, Buffalo, New England. That'll be a good Monday night game again. They're going to play twice on Monday night. In fact, they are. New England and Buffalo. They get 2 Monday night games this year. How about that? Buffalo and New England on the 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, that'll be good. And then the last week, there's no Monday night game. So Buffalo and New England. In fact, I got to look that up. I don't think there's ever been a year where there's been the same 2 teams play on Monday night within the division. That's rare if it's ever happened at all. By the way, NFL underdogs, we said this all year. There have only been, let me count this up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, including this week, where the favorites have covered more than the underdog. We still have Monday night's game to go with, but even if the Patriots win tonight, the underdogs will be 6-7 if the Patriots win tonight. Week 5, week 6, week 7. Week 5, 7-9. Week 6, 6-8. Week 7, 6-7. And this week will either be 5-8 if Buffalo wins, or 6-7 if the Patriots cover the number. 2 weeks where they were 500. That was week 3 and week 4. Both weeks were 8-8. The underdogs are 104. That's covering the number and or winning the game outright, to 89 for the favorites. So 104 and 89. I'm going to say that comes out to about, let's see the calculation right now. 104 out of 93 going into 104 of 193. That's 54%. Underdogs are taking the money, and if you have them on money lines, you end up getting better units as it comes out to be there. So 104 and 89, the total 41 in that cold weather tonight. See if anybody has an opinion on that at 6 o'clock when we get there to it. But 104 and 89, underdogs to the favorites. 5-7 this week. 5 underdogs, 7 favorites before tonight's game as well, too. All right, when we come back, 30 seconds, the NBA story. Some good games tonight, some teams that are playing well. Quite a few games, actually, in the NBA tonight, and a couple college games to talk about as well, too. Well, let's get to it. The Make the Money and Run It podcast for Monday, December 6th, 2021. We're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Capitola and the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Northern California's best British pub and restaurant you have, both on the shores of the Pacific Ocean in the Capitola Village and on the border of San Jose and Cupertino in Silicon Valley. We'll see you in 30 seconds. Back with more on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Britannia Arms of Capitola. Get down there during the week for the happy hour specials, weekends, all the sports viewing you get. College football, the NFL football, both places have the Sunday ticket. And also Bottomless Mimosas in Cupertino on Sundays. Happy hour specials, live music back in Cupertino. You have the ocean in Capitola. What more do you need? In this December that we've had a great year in California weather-wise, so get down and enjoy some beach weather if you can as well. All right, we welcome you back into the studio. The NBA story as we get to it, the 2 worst teams playing tonight, Detroit Pistons, Oklahoma City Thunder. That's actually a game I like, and we'll get to it in a second. Again, 6 o'clock Eastern for the latest news and all our selections for Selection Monday. Philadelphia 6.5 at Charlotte, 217. Charlotte has COVID issues right now, including LaMelo Ball. He has not played in 3 games. They're waiting for these guys to come back, but Philadelphia's starting to play better. Big win in Atlanta on Friday night as a road dog. Ended up winning the game outright. Low-scoring game against Atlanta, 217 the total here. Said Detroit's playing Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City lost by 53 points on Saturday to Memphis. 53-point difference they lost by to Memphis. Memphis had 152 points. Oklahoma City did not score. Detroit with the number 1 draft pick, Cade Cunningham, Jeremy Grant, their free agent signee from last year, playing well. 4.5-point spread, 202.5 when the line opened. I've seen the line come down to 3. Maybe Oklahoma City's embarrassed what happened. So people are taking Oklahoma City, dropping that line down from 4.5 to 3. 202.5 the total. Neither team scores a lot. But you got to think Detroit is in the catbird seat right now with this game. Indiana has played better, 5.5, 211 versus a struggling Washington Wizards team who had the best record for about the first fifth of the year. They've struggled a little bit on the road. 4.5-point favorite, 214.5. That line has gone up to 5.5. They're playing the Indiana Pacers on the road. Miami 4.5, 214.5 versus Memphis. Memphis, we just said, scored 152 points on Saturday against Oklahoma City, 214.5 the total there. Pretty much the game of the night right now. 3.5 for Chicago, 217 against the Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets had played well. Then Jokic came back about a week ago from his injury, and they played better. They've had games where they've won on the road as big underdogs, and sure enough, including a game against Denver too. 217, the total, 3.5. Chicago favored. They're still in second place in the East. Minnesota played better. They had a big win last weekend against Philadelphia. 2.5-point favorite. They lost at Indianapolis, or lost at Washington last week. 2.5 the total. The spread, 222.5 the total versus Atlanta. Atlanta an underdog. That's pretty tempting, actually. They haven't played very well on the road, but Atlanta's an underdog. The way they're playing, the win they got the other night against let's see, they lost to Philadelphia and they won again on Saturday. So they're playing pretty well right now, but I don't know if I take them on the road at 2.5. Minnesota could shoot the ball. Milwaukee, 6.5. All of a sudden, they're right there, third in the Eastern Conference behind Brooklyn and the Bulls, a game back of the Bulls for second place. 213.5 against the very surprising Cleveland Cavaliers. 213.5. Cleveland can shoot. Ricky Rubio has created a renaissance of some sort there. They haven't had a lot of production out of Kevin Love. Colin Sexton, of course, out for a while with that injury. Darius Garland has played well. They've got guys on that team who can play well. And the kid Mobley from USC, what a rookie he's been. Evan Mobley has been outstanding for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he's a big reason where they are right now in the standings. So Milwaukee, 6.5-point favorite. If it was last year, it would have been more. Cleveland's pretty good this year. The Cavaliers are. And then Phoenix and San Antonio. Phoenix, 7.5, 216. San Antonio played the Warriors tough Saturday night, but that was after a back-to-back against Phoenix that the Warriors had. But Popovich doesn't give up. He may not have the most talented team, but they'll play hard. 7.5-point spread for Phoenix at home, 216 the total. Final two games, the Clippers 3 at Portland. No Lillard, of course, 215.5. Clippers lost at Sacramento on Saturday. Don't ask me how that happened, but they lost on Saturday at Sacramento. Very surprising, considering how the Kings' defense has been this year. But I'm not sold on the Clippers, and I'm not sold on the Lakers either. We'll get to the standings in a second. Golden State, 16-point favorite over those Orlando Magic, 217.5. Which Golden State team's going to show up? Both Golden State and Phoenix are 19-4. They had their epic series last week. They split that series. Phoenix won at home last Tuesday. Golden State won at home on Friday night. 16-point favorite, 217.5 the total versus Orlando. That game at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. All right, let's get to some of the NBA notes and news. The two worst teams in Detroit, we said Detroit, Oklahoma City. Wizards struggling, now 14-10. They're a dog at Indiana. Indiana hasn't played well. They're 3-7 in their last 10. Mentioned Nikola Jokic back for Denver last week. The Nuggets playing better. They're at Chicago. They've struggled a little bit, but Chicago's still second best record. The Cavs with Evan Mobley, they're playing well. They're going to visit Milwaukee. Milwaukee's played really well. I don't know, 6.5 might not be enough for Cleveland. Milwaukee does have a tendency to put a lot of points up on the board at home. Suns host the Spurs, and Lillard out for the Blazers. Brooklyn in the East leads the Bulls 16-8 there. Brooklyn 16-7. The Bucks are 15-9. Miami, Washington both 14-10. Philadelphia and Atlanta 9th and 10th. Go figure. Everybody thought they'd be right up there at the top. Warriors and Suns both 19-4. Utah, I cannot figure Utah out. They barely held on against Cleveland the other day, but they're 16-7. They're in third. I guess the record speaks for itself. So Utah 16-7. Memphis, Clippers, Lakers all near 500. Dallas and Denver at the 7 and 8 spot. Minnesota and Portland, the last two spots in the West. So there's your look at the NBA. A couple of college notes here to talk about. Gonzaga loses again. They lost to Alabama and Seattle over the weekend. Alabama, number 16 in the country, somewhere in there. The new rankings haven't come out yet because the ones I saw this morning still had Duke at number 1. And that's not going to be the case because they lost to Ohio State last week. And the Purdue Boilermakers of the Big Ten are going to be your new number 1 team. They are number 1 in the new rankings, or they will be number 1 in the new rankings. Baylor and UCLA are next. KU lost to Dayton last week. They are going to fall down to number 7 or 8. And then Texas, Arkansas, and Kentucky in the lower 10. Pac-12 play started. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 have both started conference games as we head into the Christmas holiday season. Used to never happen that way. None of the games for the Pac-12, as far as I know, have been on Fox, or else I'm missing some of them in conference play. I know UCLA will go to Marquette next week, and Arizona will go to UCLA next week. So those are games going to be in the Midwest next Saturday. Arizona with a big win over Oregon State yesterday. Pac-12 play started. BYU and the WCC leading the way with Gonzaga losing twice now. Tennessee got a big win in Boulder yesterday or Saturday, and then USC gets a Pac-12 win over Washington State. Washington State held Arizona State to 29 points last week, but USC still gets the win. Andy Enfelter has himself a good team there at USC. And Pac-12 basketball is back. Memphis was ranked high. They lose to Mississippi in Oxford over the weekend. And Iowa State ranked number 19. They get the win over Creighton on the road. 5.5-point underdog at Creighton, but Iowa State comes out with the outright win. Michigan split their week. How you doing, Christine? Michigan got blown out by North Carolina, and then they come back over the weekend and beat San Diego State. One game tonight in the Big Ten. Illinois is visiting Iowa. Iowa with that come-from-behind win against Virginia Tech after blowing an 18-point lead. They are a 2.5-point favorite, 149 tonight. Again, I have an opinion on that game. We'll let you have it around 6 Eastern on the social media post for a Selection Monday. Hashtag Selection Monday. All right, some quick NHL notes before we get out of here. There are the lines. Washington 205, 5.5 versus Anaheim. Alexander Ovechkin out of his mind right now. Colorado Avalanche minus 200 on the road at Philadelphia. 6 the total. Philadelphia just fired their coach, Alain Vigneault. He is relieved of his duties. Philadelphia has lost 8 straight. Dallas 320, 5.5 versus Arizona. I know Arizona's bad, but you got to really have some confidence in the Dallas Stars if you're going to lay 320. That's minus 320 to win 100 on the Dallas Stars over Arizona. Vancouver $1.35, 5.5 over the Kings. Vancouver got a win on Saturday. Pittsburgh at Seattle. How about the expansion Seattle Kraken? They are playing very well for an expansion team. I mean, nobody's gonna outplay what Las Vegas did a few years ago, getting all the way to the Stanley Cup. But Pittsburgh, a 125 favorite, a slight favorite, 5.5 at Seattle. And then Ottawa, coming off all their COVID issues, they had 4 games that were postponed last week. They and New Jersey are going to play in New Jersey, the makeup game, as the Senators recover from COVID. Time off, New Jersey, 175. The total 6 versus Ottawa tonight. In the NHL, Florida and Toronto. Washington lead the NHL in points, 37. And the two teams, Toronto and Washington, 36 points each. Rangers and Tampa Bay are hot, but they're in second and third place in the divisions. Remember, each division's top 3 teams get in, and then the remaining teams, top 2 teams, are the wild cards. And we'll get more into the hockey as the football season winds down. Calgary and Minnesota lead the West with 35 points. Las Vegas and San Jose, 2 burgeoning rivals in the wild card lead, while Detroit and Pittsburgh surprisingly lead the East in the wild card. Nobody gave much of a chance to the Detroit Red Wings. How you doing, Jim Lovelady, Jim Hogan, both Red Wings and Michigan Wolverine fans and Detroit Tigers fans, all involved in the Detroit Red Wings as well, growing up down there. All right, one more college note to get to. Mario Cristobal, we just got this news right before we came on air. That's why I'm saving it for last. Mario Cristobal confirmed that he's leaving Oregon for 10 years to go to Miami. Miami just fired Manny Diaz this morning, and that had to be in the works. Mario Cristobal leaving Oregon for a 10-year contract, upwards of $80 million. Cristobal, Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly all received major pay increases to go to their new schools. And you know what? There are people criticizing coaches for leaving schools. We all leave for opportunities. We all get stagnant in our jobs. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. They're not in a conference. They'll never get a chance to move up in the BCS rankings unless they're already there. They don't have a conference game. I don't fault guys for leaving for different jobs and different challenges, different opportunities. We would all do the same things as anybody else. They're employees of their universities, and if they want to move on, they have every right to do so. I saw Dick Vitale come out this morning and say that he thought it was unethical. These kids give them their time, yes, but this is college football. This is college basketball. This is a business now, and if you get an opportunity to if you get an opportunity to improve and not stay stagnant and look for new challenges, then you should be able to do that as well too. So good for Mario Cristobal. He wanted to go back from Miami. He's from Miami. He's going to be the coach at least. I don't know if it's going to be 10 years, but he's going to be the coach at Miami. He leaves Oregon. Now there's some candidates being mentioned for the University of Oregon job. We'll talk to Charlie about it on Thursday as well. And our intern Nick, is a student at the University of Oregon, so I'm sure he'll have an opinion or two about Mario Cristobal's departure from the University of Oregon as Pac-12 season concludes with a thud as they lose to Utah 2 games in a row, mixed in with an Oregon State win for the University of Oregon. But Lincoln Riley at USC, Brian Kelly, Notre Dame, Caleb DeBoer goes from Fresno State to the University of Washington, takes over, and Jake Dickert gets the interim tag taken off, and he becomes the permanent coach there in Washington, in Seattle, for the University of Washington Huskies. All right, a little bit of baseball. The lockout's still going on by the owners. No news to report. Free agent abound before last Wednesday. The Mets and the Rangers spend all sorts of dollars. The Mets get Starling Marte from the Oakland A's, Mark Canha from the Oakland A's, and they get Max Scherzer, obviously. Max Scherzer, the 3-year contract, $130 million, the big news there for the New York Mets. The Texas Rangers signed their middle infield for the next few years. Corey Seager gets a 10-year deal, $325 million. Marcus Semien gets 7 years, $175 million to man shortstop and second base. They better get some pitching before they worry about who they're going to play at short and second. Offensively, they're fine. Defensively, they need a little help. Corey Seager's not the best shortstop, and I'm really surprised that they wanted him for that much time to play shortstop. I thought maybe he would be good to go to third base or Semien to short and Seager to second. Not the greatest infield defensively, but offensively, Marcus Semien had 44 home runs, finished third in the American League in MVP voting. He finished third 2 years ago with the Oakland A's in MVP voting. And Corey Seager had a brilliant 2020 playoffs. He was hurt a lot this year, but when he played, he was outstanding. And so he and Marcus Semien are going to go join the Texas Rangers. Actually, Corey Seager will end up seeing his brother a lot if his brother stays with Seattle. Kyle Seager, the third baseman for the Mariners, are going to be able to spend 19 times with each other in the American League West. Lots to talk about in Major League Baseball as well, too. All right, what are your thoughts? Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Send us any questions you got. Send us any comments you got. Don't forget, we're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. 1 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock on Mondays, 1 o'clock on Thursdays, 1 o'clock on Fridays, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Download and subscribe if you missed the live broadcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Also on social media, check out the latest news and our selections. Charlie O, intern Nick, myself will have selections Monday through Friday by 6 Eastern. They'll be earlier if we got earlier games. And when Christmas week rolls around, we'll have college basketball. It starts early. So we'll let you know in advance what times our social media selections will go off. Facebook and Instagram for comments and questions as well, too. Feel free to jump in on that. We thank everybody for the support that they give us, including the Britannia Arms of Capitola. 10 years on the shores of the Pacific Ocean, located on the end of the Capitola Village. NFL Sunday ticket. Happy hour during the week, some specials here and there. Facebook.com/Britannia Arms Capitola, 831-464-2583. Check their website out, find out what's going on there from all the specials that they have to other venues that are going on within. They've also got karaoke nights on Fridays and Saturday nights as well, too, and that's a lot of fun if you're interested in the karaoke. Britannia Arms of Cupertino, I spent the afternoon yesterday there in Cupertino talking to Tommy, the owner. Bottomless Mimosas every Sunday for the NFL Sunday ticket. Live music and bands back in there as well, too. And then they've got happy hour specials during the week. But check out their website, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. Give them a call at 408-252-7262. All right, BCS set. Alabama, Cincinnati in the Cotton Bowl. Georgia, Michigan in the Orange Bowl. Bowl games start on December 17th, Friday the 17th, 2 weeks from Friday. So in 11 days, we're going to have bowl season start all the way through New Year's Eve for the college football semifinals. The college football championship will be played on January 10th. Cincinnati with the win over Houston. Alabama with the big blowout win over Georgia. Conference championships. Utah beat Oregon. Baylor beat Oklahoma State. Utah State all over San Diego State. And then the ACC, Pittsburgh throttles Wake Forest in the ACC. The Bulls start on December 17th. In the NFL, Dallas beat New Orleans Thursday. Tampa Bay beat Atlanta. Arizona beat Chicago. Detroit gets the first win of the year. Good for them. They get the last play of the game against Minnesota, 29-27. Dolphins have won 5 in a row, 20-9 over the Giants. Philadelphia beat the Jets 33-18. Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor on fire. 9 straight games with a scrimmage touchdown, 33-18 over the New York Jets. Indianapolis 31-0 over the Houston Texans. Philadelphia 33-18 over the Jets. Indianapolis 31-0. They're still in the playoff race. And then the Chargers got out to a big lead, held on to beat Cincinnati 41-22. The late afternoon segment. Washington a late field goal over Las Vegas. Vegas is 6-6 in trouble. Rams 37-7 over Jacksonville. 49ers played terrible, losing to Seattle 30-23. Mistakes galore all over the place for the 49ers. Ravens try for 2 to win the game. They lose 20-19 to Pittsburgh, who's now above 500 again, 6-5-1. Baltimore drops from first all the way down to third in the AFC. Kansas City shuts out Denver 22-9, shuts down Denver 22-9. Tonight, Monday Night Football, Buffalo hosts New England. Pats in first overall in the AFC. They're first in the AFC East. Bills are 7-4. We're dominant early. They're at home tonight. Bills Mafia going to get them going. Now tied in the loss column. They're both with 4 losses right now. So this is a huge game for Buffalo and for New England as far as the AFC East and as far as playoff standings go in the AFC. Buffalo 2.5-point favorite, 41 the total. Both games between the Patriots and the Bills are on Monday Night Football. The next meeting will be December 26th, I believe is what they said. Buffalo at New England. You know what? This schedule I have is completely wrong. Let me see if I have that here. This might be from last year. Hopefully it's not from last year. No, this is this year's schedule. I have them at Buffalo, New England playing on the 23rd. That's not right. Okay. So we'll figure it out. Let me get this out right now while we're figuring out. But I got a feeling the information I've gotten is wrong here. So I'm going to tell you right now what it is as we wrap it up. But the Britannia Arms of Capitola, Britannia Arms of Cupertino, check them out in Silicon Valley and in Cupertino. The Rams and Cardinals next week on Monday night. The Vikings and Bears on the 20th, week 16. The Dolphins and Saints on Monday the 27th. So that's correct. Okay. So this schedule is wrong. So I can't look at this schedule. This schedule right now from the service that sent us this, completely wrong. You botched it. They play on Sunday the 26th. I was going to say they don't play 2 games on Monday Night Football with the same 2 teams from the same division. That's bad. The underdogs are 5-7 going into tonight's game. 104-89. The underdogs over the favorites going in. They were 37-27 the first 4 weeks. Only 5 games over 500 the last 12 weeks, and we've got 4 more weeks to go. 5 more weeks to go next week. 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 5 more weeks going into this weekend. Next weekend will be the last bye. All right. Vasi Vadaparty here for Charlie O, intern Nick Robinson. Thanks again to the Britannia Arms of Cupertino and Capitola. We will see you on Thursday afternoon, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock on the West Coast for the Make the Money and Run podcast. Don't forget to keep up with us all week by 6 o'clock on the East, 3 o'clock on the West for our selections each day. We'll have all the latest news for Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, and also college basketball as we move through December into the holidays, into bowl season, into the new year. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the games. Good luck. We'll see you on Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern. Don't forget our social media. Keep checking out our social media. Have a great afternoon, everybody.